So, welcome everybody to the first CMGT podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
So we are doing this a for fun because it's just fun talking about school stuff, I suppose, but also just to give us a little bit more insight on how things are actually run behind the scenes and talk about things like maybe games, movies, whatever. But today we're gonna do a serious note, so we're gonna talk about what's happening currently at school, so the evaluations, the design line, and next year. But maybe it's first a good idea to start with just simple introduction because some people are known, but some people are not known. So I'm just going to start on my screen from the left. So that will be Evans. Maybe
Okay,
Evans
me
can.
first. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm Evans, one of the teachers at CMGT. I did mostly in the engineer line, so if you survive to the second year, probably you're gonna see me there, especially with C++ and then 3D rendering and advanced tools. But I also teach mostly in the first year in the design courses, I think. Game design, design thinking, things like that. So, good night.
See you. Peace out.
Peace.
Mic drop.
Drop the mic. Then we have Alejandro, maybe.
Yeah, sure. So, hi, my name is Alejandra Moreno. I'm also a teacher at CMGT from the design line. And I'm mostly involved in design courses, both first and second year. You will definitely see me because they're mandatory courses. So if you haven't seen me yet, you will. And and then I'm mostly involved in third and fourth years supervision, IMTS, graduation, things like that.
Gracias. And then we have our student, which is just gonna go back a little bit, or Rob. So maybe Rob, you can fill us in what you do, who you are.
Yeah. So my name is Rob Scholten and I'm a second year designer at CMGT right now, working on Progress Show. And besides that, I think I'm also the president, chairman, I like to say chairman more than president, the chairman of the educational committee. I think we're going to talk about it a little bit more as well later, but basically we help and support the teachers as well in running and organizing the education.
Cool.
And Mark, who is you?
Yes.
So I'm Mark. I'm an artist teacher, mostly focused on the artist for the second year. I pretty much teach all the art courses that there are, and in the third, fourth year I guide mostly fourth years who are working on a thesis and occasionally a minor. So if you're an artist, you'll see me a lot for next a lot. Every single course I teach them. So,
True.
But I'm curious, Rob, can you maybe indulge us a little bit more on the educational committee? So what do you guys do?
Well, we do a lot of things basically, but basically the main idea of us is we support the organization of the course by basically checking if everything goes to plan, all the rules and recommendations are followed in a proper way. And besides that, we also give input and advice on decisions to be made. For example, what we're going to talk about later, designer role as well, is something we are also educational committee thinking about and just brainstorming together essentially. And it's made up of multiple teachers and multiple students to give that sort of balanced input level. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. So to give people a better idea how things work, so we have the EC, right? So the part of Rob, but next to it we have a curriculum, which is part of like teachers who oversee the entire study when it comes to a little more on an abstract level, so that we follow the vision set by our study, and that's the organ that decides on changes that we might do in the study. And of course then we talk to teachers, we talk to students about it, but that committee is the oversight that actually makes the decisions, the hard decisions that might be needed to make things better. And
oversight, yeah. Definitely. Like in theory, it is the case. The curriculum committee, the curriculum, makes decisions, makes the idea, the plans for it, and then we go over it and see if it was argumented well, and it was like done well, and it's a good idea. And then we can, for some things we can approve, for some things we can just give an advice. But in practice, there's a lot more to it, and there's a lot more that we also like to give input and advice and feedback while the process is still going with the plan we made.
Yeah, exactly. So also give an idea, the people in the curriculum are Taka van Loorn, Mirjam van Tilburg, so our team leads, but
Team
also events is part of it as well.
Yeah, for the engineer line.
Engineer line. We have Mark Boerrichter, who's there for the design line. Me for the art line. We have Hester van Ent. I don't think most people know her.
Not yet.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet.
And Stephanie van Moerwijk. She's our educational expert. And Johannes Boerrichter. You all know Johannes as well.
He's our chair.
Yeah, he's our chairman, so he leads it. So, okay, she had a lecture for the first year. So see, now you know. Oh,
I think behaviorism. So Hester does behaviorism.
Mhm.
One lecture at least, yeah.
I
okay,
think
so-
she also does some projects in the first and second year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
yeah. So, okay.
Hester is responsible for the graduation and also for the IMTNS module.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
So
pretty much.
we'll go through her at some point.
Yeah, you will meet her, and I mean, she's nice. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
She's a
of course.
very nice person. I mean,
We are a
all-
nice team.
Exactly, we are all nice people,
Yeah, I hope.
right? Chat. Just take down names if they say something mean to us, and then we'll find them, and then we'll talk to them in person next year. So let's get to one of the topics that we want to talk about, and that's the evaluations. Because we always ask everybody to fill in them, like fill in all the evaluations.
We beg.
We back.
We beg to fill actually the evaluations. And I can imagine that people are a little bit tired of them. Like, again, do we really need to fill in the evaluations? Because for us, it's actually really helpful. I don't know about the rest of the people here, but I actually read all of them. So I actually read all evaluations to see what people actually wrote about it. Sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's a little bit harsh. You know, like you could have worded that a little bit more polite,
Yeah.
I suppose. Because we also have feelings, you know, we're also just people. But maybe, like Rob, do you guys also read all the evaluations from in the EC?
That's actually a good point. We don't read all the evaluation because the only thing that we can get right now is like the raw data from the evaluation. So every answer that everyone has said. And to be honest, like if we have a meeting like once every term, so we don't have time to go through every answer everyone's ever given.
Mhm.
So it's a good point, but we are that's something we're working on in the EC is trying to get that data of like the evaluations, but get them from multiple sources as well, so not just from the surveys, but also from conversations, the teachers' feedback, and have that sort of packaged into one clear overview. So we and eventually also the students, because it should then be, if that's done, that should also be freely.
Available.
Available for everyone that wants to see those things, so people can also see what goes on with their feedback.
But do you guys have access to the full evaluation? Because we have a separation in the folders we can access. So we have one with the comments, and I think the one that is available for the students don't have the comments.
Yeah.
Because this also helps with anonymity, so the students see like the overall.
Yes, we have access to both essentially.
Okay, so you can see actually read what they write there.
I haven't read anything weird yet, so don't worry, it's fine.
No, I read all of them also.
Yeah,
so-
I also read all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The moment they are out,
Yeah.
the moment they're out, we start to WhatsApp between ourselves and say, "Hey, that's a grade for this one. And look what he said about you, dude." And just we start to be like, "Oh man, this one was harsh."
Or yeah, I was
some
like,
of
oh, I'm so happy about what they said. I was like,
But
this guy said the complete opposite. Damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, some students say like, "Yeah, but the course was kind of too fast," and the other one is like, "It's too slow. I would like it to really pick up." And then, great. What do we do with this feedback?
yeah.
I mean, one of the classics that we had, I think, was in the second quarter. It was about a teacher. I mean, we won't say any names, but like one comment said like, "Yeah, the person is really bad," and the next comment like, "Yeah, this is the best teacher ever." Like, so it's like, like missile he's okay then? You know, if she's averaged out, is he then
It averages out, yeah.
is then an okay teacher? So it is kind
I
of
think that's one of the biggest pitfalls with evaluations as well. Like you have these very different things, and they can contradict each other essentially. So you would have to have multiple inputs, multiple ways of getting that data, so you at least know that there is something consistent about them. Essentially, that's
Yeah, but they are helpful because if you take like a step back, usually it's good to like of course sometimes you can see these very contradicting opinions, but in many cases you can see things that you say, yeah, I do see this happening in the module. So it is anyhow helpful to identify potential problems and ways to address them. So it's just like you may not take everything literally, but it still give you hints into things that are maybe not working very well. And of course, if you see a lot of agreement in certain things, then of course you say, yes, there's something wrong there. Even if someone says, no, that was fine, but then you have like 10 that's saying it's not good, then, that also gives you some hints there.
Yeah, and also it's funny when you have a course that has a lot of teachers and you have a feedback saying it was a great teacher. So for instance, with design thinking the first year, we have a lot of teachers teaching it, and then some students say, oh, my lab teacher was really helpful, and you have no idea. Like we could ask people with access to it to take a look and really find out, but at some point the students also, when they fill in or which one was their teacher, they usually go for the lecturer, not the lab teacher. And it's very common for them to just mark someone that is not even teaching that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very common. Like I wouldn't be surprised to have Mark written down there for C++. Yes,
Yeah. It's just
I wouldn't.
Yeah,
They're like, at some point I got some questions with Mark, and then that's what I'm doing here.
it's just really fun. But also sometimes we get like because what you have to see as well, like every course gets a grade at the end, right, between 1 and 10, and I think everything above is 7 is like seen as good, so anything below 7 is like but sometimes we get like a 9. You're like, yeah, I did an awesome job, but then you see that there were only like 2 people who actually filled it in. You're like, thank you. I mean, I love you for doing that, but it's not like is that really that helpful. And sometimes it's like, yeah, this course is really bad. You get a 2, and there was like 1 person who actually filled it in, and he just like hammered that course down. He's like, yeah. So it's like, how useful are those opinions then? Well, I can even make it more awesome. So years ago, we did them after we gave the grades for a course, right? So if you first had the grades, then we ask you for feedback.
Then you have revenge. That's what happens. As you get, but I'm curious to try that at some point if that would work. But right now we're trying with different things to try to get feedback. That's when the EC also comes in to try to help us to gather that information from the students. I see some people in the chat talking about having like some sort of committee. Let's see, someone said something about having a group to discuss that.
I think I know what they're talking about. Like there was a story about like a couple years back. There was a group of students in one of the years that decided to band together and like have a student board. But it wasn't officially like it wasn't an official board essentially. Like they didn't have any like legal power.
Well,
the EC does have legal power because it's literally a mandatory thing for every study in the Netherlands to have an EC according to Dutch law. So it's basically also that we have that power to like stop things if they're not well done.
Yeah. Well, according to it was done by a section. So
but it can be the thing is like sometimes you can have conversations and have feedback and have interesting things to add and change, and it might be that the things just went wrong and the things didn't properly change. So and what we're trying to do continuously is to improve on that and try to make those things happen. But we're still flawed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I know that we have been talking about creating a panel discussion. Because, I mean, right now you just fill it in and then you can say, yeah, it was awesome, or it was like the worst course I've ever had. But that's not really good information for us. We're like, yeah, cool, but why is it bad? Why is it good? So I know that we're talking about having like a panel discussion with like people in there, and that we can talk a little bit more in depth, like, okay, but why do you think that course is really bad? Or why do you think we should do this instead of that? So there's a little bit more information than
Yeah, there's only so much you can actually write in the evaluation.
Yeah.
And especially as you were saying, sometimes you don't get enough actually answers. Sometimes you have like 16 people in the lab and only 3 people answer. So sometimes it's very hard to actually be able to make, like derive useful action points from it.
Oh, two recent examples, like game design. Game design for all course for everyone in the first year had about 4 responses. 4 responses. So that for me, I think I was completely disappointed when I saw that number. And advanced tools, I taught it. I had 0 response. I don't even have a like a one of those forms evaluations with a grade or something like that because no one answered it. So I would just assume it was perfect.
Amazing.
So, yeah, that's what I think.
But yeah, like you can essentially like the surveys are pretty valuable if they are filled in. But like you said, panel discussions. You can. There's a lot of the other things like just conversation during the labs. Even it could be. It could also feedback from the teachers if that was written down, and if all that was combined, then you would have a very like a large volume of feedback that you could then draw conclusions out of. And that is like something what I felt like personally is that there's a lot of focus on these surveys, and if they're bad, then the module is bad, but if they're good, then the module is good, right? So there's no other sources of inputs of feedback essentially what we noticed.
Yeah. Oh, actually, someone has a really good idea for the survey. Put it behind like a wall, so they first have to pay for it, then get the grade, and then I think that will work as well. Like fill it in, then get your grade for the survey. I think
You
this is a good
basically
idea.
want to make the course pay to win.
How entrepreneurial.
Yeah, that's a good point indeed, Nina. I'm not sure how can we do that in Blackboard, but yeah.
Blackboard monetization, yes.
Talking about sponsors.
Yeah.
You got ads in Blackboard.
Shadow Race Legends, because it's not sponsoring CMGT.
Yeah.
I think that'll be
Indeed.
awesome.
Yeah, but it's something that we struggle because there are courses that we know we have the sense of something is going off. Or for instance, it's very. At least I think some of those things improved a little bit with now during Corona because we are using more of the Discord. Yeah. So I see some students getting to talk to teachers when they feel something is going off, talking to the study coach. So the information is somehow going faster. That's at least what I perceived. And I think for some courses we hear a lot of complaints already soon enough as students saying, oh, we have this problem or this is not clear or things like that. So we try to already iterate and discuss on that, and like we expect to see some of that coming up in the evaluations, and sometimes they're not there or they're vague, and then we get into that situation which we're not sure if we act correctly or if there was just some students saying those things.
There you go. Yeah, I agree, but it's always like, I mean, we value the opinions from students, of course, but also like how much do they weigh? I mean, because we have our own vision on education or the course, but there's also like the other side. So it's like finding the balance as well. Like, okay, but how far do we want to go with like the feedback? Because sometimes like, yeah, make it easier, and then you're like, yeah, but if we make it easier, then it might lose the value, of that course. So it's always this balance a little bit of finding what do we. Yeah, it's difficult, right? It's difficult. So
it's like I said, you have to be able to verify the survey results with other inputs. Like if your survey results get verified by the input you gather from the teachers that give it, then that makes sense. But if like those things completely, like if all the students say like, oh, this module completely sucks, and then the teachers come and say, oh, we never had any complaints, it was fine, everyone had a 7. Then there's something there that's not correct or not right.
But that happens. That happens. So I mean, there were some courses I think it's well in the second years and
don't name it.
No, I won't name it. but the feedback was like absolutely brutal. It was brutal. We're like, holy shit. But then the people's teaching it never got any complaints. It's like, but and then for us it's like weird. Then where is it going wrong? Because the feedback was absolutely brutal. We're like, could be a little bit more nicer to say that. But if you don't talk to us as well, then it's very hard for us to measure how we're doing with a certain course. Instead of like, yeah, it's awful, you guys all suck. You're like, cool.
Yeah, but I think if someone start using like swear words or basically saying like you guys all suck, then you shouldn't think that. You should just like leave that answer and just put it away, because that is not constructive at all. Like if you fill in these surveys, obviously you can be critical. Like
Of course, you have to. Yeah.
gotta admit, I've been critical in these surveys
Yeah.
at some point. Like, but I mean,
I
It's
ask my
still-
students to be critical.
exactly. You want to,
It's part of my course.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still you're still talking to the human beings, not to the
Yeah.
computer. You're still talking to people who put time and effort into making this module for you. So it's yeah.
But still, it's kind of odd because at the same time we had this and other issues there, other layers on that. So, for instance, there are some courses that the students also don't really get clearly why we teach them.
Yeah.
So, of course, this is into the bigger discussion of the curriculum, the
Mhm.
box, and how all those things work. And I think that after some time, after going through them, some students start to realize how those things kind of fall into place and work. But by the time they have that, they're doing the course, they can be a little bit more harsh to it, especially saying like, "Oh, this is completely useless. Why I'm doing this? I should just be playing League of Legends." And think about given some time, they would be look back and say, "That thing was actually useful for this." So it's kind of hard to have that. One
Yeah.
thing that Paul suggested that I think was a great idea was, we hope to do that in the coming years, is to ask students in the third and fourth year to go back and take a look at the courses and do like a reevaluation how they help them where they are now. So we
Yeah.
can take a look at how the courses over time are helping them.
I think that's a very good idea. That's something I have, but like I would then do it yearly. Like at the end of year, you would just get a group of people and then
Yeah, the panel. Yeah, just a panel.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. How do you feel? What can we improve? How can we improve it? Just give it to us, of course, in a good way, instead of like, event sucks. Yeah, cool. You know. Of course he doesn't, because he's amazing. Of course, let's just
Thanks. No, but if you want to say those things, it's fine. It's fine. Just the thing is, do the same thing I do to you. Like if I'm gonna complain about you, I'm gonna also give you a suggestions how you can improve. So if you're gonna do that, give me the courtesy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, but actually, I'm just looking at chat, and they were actually talking about pseudo art, one of the classic courses that received.
It changed a lot, right? It
Yeah.
improved a lot, actually.
Yeah, that was one of the courses that got feedback, and based on the feedback, right, we actually changed a lot. Because we saw that it was way too much. Like it was too early, maybe as well in the entire program. So like, you know what? Let's just move it to the third quarter, in the second year to the third quarter. So I mean, we do listen to feedback, right? But we also like weigh it. Like, yeah, is this a good idea to do like they propose us to do? But like that course is one of the prime examples that we actually
Yeah.
do listen and take that advice and move it. Or
For me as well. So it's for UI UX Advanced, it was the same thing. I think the first time we gave it, we had like good intention. I think the main issue was how it was graded, the assignment, and we had good intentions going, the decisions. But in practice, it was very confusing to a lot of students. So, and that was also one of the, like, we kind of overhauled the whole thing, the whole assignment grading, and it also improved a lot, actually.
yeah. See, feedback helps.
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah, we definitely do listen to feedback.
Yeah.
it did help. Like I'm reading in the chat, for example, that in year 3 procedural art was very difficult, or something was not really doable.
Yeah.
And personally, I think procedural art was my favorite course to study up until now, and also it was just very well organized in my sense, and I've heard a lot of people talk about that as well.
Huh.
So the feedback does get. It's also important to see what gets done with their feedback, essentially, and obviously because they're not doing the same thing the next year, hopefully, usually. They don't see that really.
Yeah, but also, for instance, we noticed, like, I think all the second years noticed that the beginning of the second year were really so crushing. So we heard from all the students how hard everything was going to, and we tried to take a look at that. I think I also did a survey back then to try to take an overview of, okay, how can we try to improve that? And one thing we're going to do for next year was we're moving procedure art to the third quarter.
Yeah.
So then the beginning of the year is a little bit lighter. So we start with business thinking instead of procedural art. So it helps you to get a little bit easier in the courses because, for instance, I can speak for the engineer line. In the engineer line, you have C++ with me, 3D math with Paul, procedural art, and personal portfolio. I know it's not easy.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, because it's a new language, so C++ is a new thing for most of students. 3D math, it's a Paul course, so it's a lot of math there. He tries the best on that, but it's still a topic that is not that easy to already just get it. And I think a lot of students just get it. And C++, they only really get those things in their head after they do 3D rendering the next quarter. So you need a little bit. So we pushed procedural to the end, like to the third quarter, to try to balance up a little bit with the workload.
Yeah. So we do listen. Yeah, but also like to make a nice bridge, to the like links to next topic, is that we got a lot of feedback about the entire designer line. They're all like, yeah, what is a designer? And that actually sparked a discussion as well in our team. Like, yeah, cool.
Unleash hell, Mark.
Wow. But there was actually a question like, yeah, what is a designer? And we all think about it. So I'm actually kind of curious, Rob, since you're a designer, what is a designer?
What do you think you are?
Yeah.
What are you? What are you?
What are you?
I've been practicing this question for the entire week, but I still haven't been able to come up with
I will read from this piece of paper. It's like,
there's no simple answer to it. I think the word designer, if you say like someone's a designer, I personally don't identify as a designer, because what I've learned from the designer role in this sense, then it doesn't fit me. But it also doesn't fit me to be an artist or an engineer, because I'm not super art, but I'm also not super in coding. But I like everything essentially, like all of them. I personally like identify more as a technical artist, and I think that should also be something that is included in the study. But as a designer, you have sound designers, you have graphic designers, you have people that are more project managers. Me personally, I'm more of a project manager and project leader, planning and stuff like that. But if you look at what's being asked, it's more like the UI UX elements, resolution screens, for designers among us, like the Valley of Despair and Octalysis and all the research stuff and stuff like that. And sometimes it just feels like you're just doing basic documentation.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of designers. Like, yeah, how did you perceive, especially the first and second year projects? And they're like, yeah, we were just like, I'm just gonna say it, like a bitch, where you just had to write all the documents. I'm like,
Nice way of putting it.
yeah, it was very very easy way of putting it. But I was like, yeah, but that shouldn't be the case, right? I mean, you are like this person, and your role is actually very important, right? So, but then why is it somehow like degraded into like, yeah, you just write documents, and that felt very wrong. So that started the entire discussion, like, how can we fix this? Because that's a very big topic.
I think that come from different things actually that we have to look at. I think one of them is how the projects are connected to the modules. So that's the first thing. I think, well, I might be wrong, but I think the first year those things kind of connect a little bit better. But when you get in the second year that the projects are a little bit more open, then it starts to feel a little bit like, okay, what is everyone's place in here? At the same time, we also have many different modules in the design line. So it's a little bit hard to see how they build up on top of each other. It's something that we are really working on the Kirkcom, is how those things build up and what is kind of the end goal we're going for. That's something Mark B is trying to survey and work on. Like we are doing internally with the other teachers, discussing with each one of them, like, okay, what do you think is design line? What do you think is important for a designer to know? And build on top of that. But Rob said something that makes a lot of sense. Like, how can you simply define designer without having another thing in front of it, like a UX designer, a game designer? Like, what is just designer?
Yeah,
Alejandro, what is just designer?
I mean, you are the designer. Give us
yeah,
the
but
wisdom.
I think this is the issue, right, with the whole design line, that and that is why Mark is trying to get information, like opinions from all kinds of teachers and also students, just to try to figure out, okay, what is our vision for what a designer should be able to do? Because indeed, right now it's quite broad. one of the issues with the line is that the first year, for instance, designers don't have their own courses. They share courses with all the other lines, which inevitably leads to them not having unique skills or unique knowledge that they can apply in a project. And that's why I'm not really involved in project as such. I don't really have the time to do it. I think only in second year one project. But of course, I've talked to students, I've heard from other teachers. The problem is that because they don't have these unique skills, then basically they're relegated to doing stuff that, for instance, the artist doesn't want to do because I can do art better than you. Or I can also program better than you. So then you should do something that that only like you can do, right? And in many cases, that ends up being things that people don't want to do, which is usually documentation, or things that are that are maybe not as complicated, and then the other roles don't really want to take the time to do it. So this is one of the issues, especially in the first year, because of the lack of their only courses. I think some of this could also be because some courses that are shared maybe should not be shared.
Yeah, completely.
To have a little bit more unique skills per role. So we are looking into this to see, okay, how can we solve it? If you ask me what more or less in general a designer should be able to do, right? So either whether you're a game designer or a UI UX designer, it's really someone that is able to understand what product needs to be developed. So that means that you need to understand a little bit of, okay, who are we designing for? So that means a little bit of should be knowledgeable in user research to find out, okay, what do we need to design and develop to solve the needs of a particular user. Then during the process of developing, a designer should be capable of directing this. So that's more or less what I think Rob was saying about like a role of like a project
Supervisor.
leader or something, supervision. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think a designer should be a team leader or something like that, but they should have the skills to be able to oversee the process in such a way that the process is done in a correct way. So because you understand what needs to be developed, then you should also kind of know how it needs to be developed so that it actually solves the problem at hand. And at the end, they should be capable of validating whether the product that was developed actually solves the problem that was, if it meets its intended purposes, basically.
But
And that's very vague and broad, but
Yeah.
that's basically my objection with it as well. Like that is one part of being design, like
Yeah.
the validation and the UI UX design. Um, but if you are someone that essentially is interested in art, but is not necessarily an artist, like I'm not someone that draws all day or like
Yeah.
super art feeling. I have a feeling for code, but I'm not. I can't do math, extreme
Yeah,
math.
yeah.
But I'm also not very interested in the UI UX things, essentially. But I want to do something in between. So then you come to technical artists, essentially, which is not that officially a role here. But I think a lot of people fit into that kind of category, and I think that with them, and then you're pushing them essentially into a designer role, which is then because they don't fit an artist or an engineer.
But it shouldn't be like that. That's something. For instance, I have this a lot in the intakes. So I've done 6 intakes this week. Please, why? But and it's very common to have students that say, I ask them, okay, what? Knowing that we have the roles, which one do you feel? And they're like, I don't really know how to code, and I don't really know how to make art, but I like games, so I think designer. Like, no, but that's not the mindset. Like, you're not doing this because you're not good at that. Because imagine you going for a job interview and you get there and say, hey, by the way, I'm not great at that. I'm not great at this. So I'm not really good at those things that you're asking for. So can you hire me? That's not the attitude, right? You want to show off that you have some skills of your own, and then you're applying for that. That's also part of when I see a lot of the students discussing and coming to the intakes is expecting the design line to be a game design line. Of course, I would love that, but I don't think that's really feasible.
No,
because the game designer is also not an entry role in the industry. Like hardly you'll be able to get an internship or your first job as a game designer. So we can also not just try to prepare you for that if you're not really gonna work on that there. Like it's a more of a senior position. So this is also things we have to take into account when we're planning the modules is, okay, what are the skills and things we can help you and give and teach you So when you're applying for an internship or job and you want to pursue a career as a game designer, for instance, what are the entry jobs you could take, and that we can teach you to go from there on.
Yeah.
I also maybe wanted to touch, because I was kind of going through the comments very quickly, and I also agree with a couple of things that were mentioned. So one of them is also about the structure of the project, and I think also Evans mentioned a little bit or touch upon it very quickly. Is that the projects are done very quick, right? You only have like 2 weeks, 3 weeks in the second year, so they're very quick, and because they're very short in nature, then the more or less the way it's graded is like, okay, we need you to do something, and we need you to do it quick, and that not always aligns with what, let's say, a designer could do, because then you don't really have all the time that you need, for instance, to do user research or to do prototyping, or to do proper testing, validation, iteration, things like this. So that's also, I think, something that, again, it's maybe missing. How could we solve it? I don't know, but that's also, I think, one of the problems with designers in the way that projects are currently structured.
At the same time, I think there's, for instance, CMGT is about 3 years old, right? So before CMGT, we had other courses that got combined, and together they transformed into CMGT. And when I joined section, I think Alejandro joined a semester before me, right, Alejandro?
I think so, but I joined also when CMGT was just starting, basically.
Yeah, it was just a baby. It's still kind of a baby. Then I experienced with the previous courses and how they were, and since a lot of things there were they were kind of old already like that. A lot of things were very stable. So I remember a lot of students in the second year, they already knew beforehand what would be the next project. So during the quarter, they would already prepare, knowing that what they would have. So you would have designers from the start of the quarter already thinking with their team what they were going to build for the next project. So I think that was something very interesting, and kind of helps a little bit alleviate this problem of having short projects, because actually you can have students thinking about it way before they start. And that would also help as a motivator for the courses, because I remember back then, first I would teach Lua, and then I would have engineers following the Lua course and already thinking how they would apply that for their project, because it was a mandatory. So they would actually follow the course and have interesting questions about it, because they knew, like, they were like, oh, my team want to make like a card game. What the hell can I use this thing to make it happen? So that was kind of a little very interesting motivator going on.
Yeah, but I think we shouldn't forget people who just want to be a level designer or a sound designer or a UX UI design, like the actual just make stuff, because we often talk about designers as like a role, this like overarching role that they actually go for the final product and that they design it, but some people just want to make stuff in their role. And I also think like they should then also have a place, right, as a designer in our design line. So it's like it's really a complicated puzzle, because I mean, ideally, right, I would take that line and just like chop it up in like 4 different lines.
Yeah, I heard this already.
That would be
How
perfect.
feasible is that?
It's not at all. But it's like that would be ideal, right? They have like, sorry, Rob, go ahead.
Rob?
In my previous study, I went to another HBO study before here, and it was a similar thing. They had also basic roles, sort of similar to engineer, artist, and designer, but they made profiles of them. So they made profiles where every role had essentially a set amount of courses that they need to pass, so they need to have, and then they had like 2 or 3 optional courses that they or direction that they could follow, which did have to have some restrictions, like they have to have something to do with the course. So, for example, if they were an engineer, they couldn't like just say, I want 3 artist modules, unless it has something to do with it. Essentially, it's very well built. But what the thing is with that, they would decide this in the first year. So the first year would be, for half, would be the same, and then in the halfway the first year, they would make a sort of roadmap for themselves for which course they want to follow in the next year and a half. So they knew from the start like which direction they're going, essentially. And, I mean, there was some opportunities to change, like there is with the roles in the first year. You can also change between the roles. I think personally, I'm a very big proponent of like having students choose their own direction, obviously within the context and the learning goals of what you want them to achieve. But they should be able to basically make their own journey.
Yeah, that's ideal. I think that's also something that we will move towards with Saxion as a whole. But that will take several years. I mean, for people who are now in the first year, they probably won't see it when it gets released, and I'll put it like that. But I think that is like the ideal situation where you can pick. Yeah, I want to be a UX UI designer, and then you pick all the courses that artists have to do with UX UI, or if you want to be a sound designer, level designer, you pick your path and then just go through the maze of courses that will suit you and give you the tools you need to become that role that you're looking for. But that's
I don't think it should be so that specific. Like specific as a sound designer, you should just still have a designer, but then you would have, for example, design. You would have UI UX Advanced as a mandatory course, and you could choose to do sound design.
yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing we can think of. The only problem, I see two problems with that. Not that they are unsolvable, but are puzzles that need to be solved with that. First one is how do you maintain a vision with that? Like if you have so many options, like how can you have a vision of what should fit there, right? And the other one is that I think, for instance, figuring out what course you're gonna do, like what you're gonna graduate when you're young, I think it's a pretty thought thing to do. Like, okay, now just figure out what you're going to do for the rest of your life. You're 17, you're 18. Doing that, also doing the course, I also think it's something that's kind of a little troublesome. Like, what if you do a wrong decision, or what if you just took a lot of courses and you figure out like, oh damn, I messed up, I need to restart. So I think things that we have to reconsider. One thing would really help is, for instance, if we could have recurrent courses. So let's say if we could teach the same course in 2 quarters, like civil laws in quarter 1 and quarter 3. So you could have students that if they didn't pass, they could try it again there, or if they need to change it, you could do that. And then, but we have to go to the issue of the resources, how many teachers we have, and how can we spread them and make all of that work. But of course, I think those are ideas that we could and we should take a look at, but they all have their own issues.
Yeah, and one thing I just wanted to like say again, like these are our own opinions, right? This is not like successful communication. I mean,
that's not official.
This is not official.
Yeah, don't quote me.
Don't quote us on us like, yeah, but Ethan said we're gonna do this, you know. That please don't. These are our
also
own.
This doesn't represent the opinions of the people in the EC or this.
No, exactly. This is just our own personal opinion, so I think that will be just to say it again, just to be safe.
One thing I was thinking about, like what the main difference is between designers, artists, and engineers, essentially, is the fact that artists and engineers get a lot of skills taught to them. So they have the languages, networking, algorithms, 3D math, which are basically specific skills. Yeah. Artists have 3D animation, rigging, whatever, all those specific things. And we as designers, we get taught more a way to think, like a way to iterate, a way to design thinking, and not necessarily like those actual practical skills, like you said, level design in Unity, for example, like working with simple things like shader graph or particle effects. That is something that is basically missing, and like I said, it's more of a mindset that we are being taught. Which is not a bad thing, but it should be more balanced.
Yeah. That's something we also have to discuss and taking a look at the courses. Well, that's one of the exercises we are doing now. Especially taking a look back at the projects and how designers fit there, and seeing how the course is built up and what are the knowledge and skills they should have, and how we can apply them.
Yeah, and I think especially right in the first year, it just boils down to the fact that designers don't have their own course. Everybody is a designer in the first year, technically speaking, even though they're not. It's like it just feels weird, you know. It feels a little bit like.
I would not say everyone's a designer, but I would just say like everyone can do what the designer can do. So people can cover for him. Basically, he doesn't bring anything like unique to the group right now.
Yeah. No, I will tell you why I don't think that is really the case. So, for instance, I thought I had all the designers for game design this year, right? So. I'm not sure if that was good or bad for them, but that was the case. And I think comparatively to the engineer classes and the artist class, and also what I heard from my colleagues teaching the engineers and the artists, I think the designers had the most creative and more interesting games. That's what we were expecting for their line. So they have a different way and they're more creative and to coming up with those things. I think that was really interesting. I think it was very similar to what happened to research also, the research module. Like that the designers usually would have way more creative and more interesting discussions. Last year, last year when I did research, I had one class of artists, one class of engineers, one class of designers, and the ones with actual discussions were the designers. The way they think and they discuss from the beginning is already different.
Yeah.
So they are different students.
They are,
Like we
yeah.
shouldn't. I know they feel like, oh no, we're just the same, or is everyone in the first year designer? I don't think it is, but the courses might make it feel like that. So it's
Yeah.
something we have to take a
So
look at.
yeah, so that's more like, I mean, not everyone is the same, right? So if you have affinity, let's say for to become a designer, then you probably are more on the creative side, right? But what I meant is in skill-wise, what we're teaching them, right? So
Yeah.
they don't see anything unique, even though yeah, they themselves could be more creative or more expressive or better at organizing people or something. That is something that you have like on your own, right? That's not something that we give you in the study. I think that's more or less what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I completely agree with that. Yeah, I don't think that everyone in the first year is a designer. We have, like personally, I made my own unique thing by, like I said, I personally also feel like a designer should be not necessarily a project leader, but at least like a project manager, like someone that brings structure to a project, makes the planning and stuff like that. And I think that's something that designers could really do in the first year project if they get taught in that as well. If they get taught in how to handle a team, how to be a people manager essentially, and that doesn't have to be like a very strong thing. But that I think that is, if you were able to put that in, then they would have that unique skill and lead their teams into a sort to victory essentially.
Yeah. But one thing though that I think it's important to discuss a little bit also for the design role, because I feel that some students, at least during intake, so not I cannot really point a moment in my memory this happening during the course, but I feel some students don't have this idea that they have to build the stuffs on their own. So I really do think, especially if you're going for like, if you want to be a game designer, you as a designer, you really should be able to make it all by yourself. So you really need to dig into art and coding, and you should be proficient on that. Not necessarily the best one, but enough so you can make those things happen on your own. Otherwise, like how do you expect some people to just join in and say, yeah, so I'm an engineer but I have nothing to do now, let's do that, or I'm an artist and I love to draw but I don't know. So how can we do that? And sometimes I feel, especially when we started discussing the idea of the designers needing to have programming courses, for instance, is that I feel like, oh, but I'm a designer, should I be programming? Yes, you should.
Yeah. But that's
Yes.
basically where those profiles also come in. Like if you
Yeah.
have a set of mandatory courses that for a designer example, and then like you have some programming course, you have some art course, you have some UI UX courses, and then there's two open spots, for example. Like, and they could say like, oh, I want to specialize more into the sound design, or I want to specialize, I want to go UI UX advanced. While UI UX is just in the standard stuff.
Oh, there's another I would say kind of diplomatic issue with that we've discussed before. Is also like, what if you have a course and no one enrolls for it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the issues right now, right?
That's
Like,
one of the issues also, because it might be a little bit abstract, the concept that teachers are paid, but it happens. So when we give a course or things like that, you have to schedule hours for them to do that. And if you have no students for that, then they have those hours blocked anyway. So how can you manage that and so on?
I was not saying that you should add like niche subjects and like
No,
like,
I know.
like, take the current subjects and every subject, make it so that every subject is mandatory in a role. Not necessarily in all of them, but like every subject is mandatory in a role, so everyone follows that subject essentially.
But at the same time, then if you do that, what if you have some sort of dependency between them? So you kind of make it hard for someone to kind of just grab them. Like, I understand your idea. I'm just pointing out other things on it that we have to think and try to tinker. Like, okay, how can we make this happen, and how can we balance things?
But
Like, yes.
Dependency, what you said, like right now it's also the case for artists, for example, between visual research and VFX. It's also dependent on each other.
But this is something, for instance, in this specific case, I don't really agree on that, because I don't think a module, like the work from one module, should be necessary for the other one. And that's what I understood from those two modules. But for instance, in C++ in 3D rendering is done in OpenGL, so you need to know C++. So you might have failed the C++ course, but if you understood enough, so you can start programming in 3D rendering, you'll be able to follow, right? So like you can fail one and continue the other. Like, will not be optimal, I think, but you can. But I don't agree that, of course, like you need to use the results and the assignment for C++ into 3D rendering, because
Yeah.
then you have those issues. What about short-term students or short-term students
Short
that come in?
degree. Short
Yeah,
degree.
Short-term
degree,
students
yeah.
that just do 1 year and then be gone. Like,
Back to Spain,
This
Espanol.
practical things, obviously, like that those can be thought about more. But like,
Yeah, of course.
my main idea is like that. I think students need the choice. Need the choice to be able to make their own path with obviously within the learning outcomes of the education of the course.
Yeah,
But,
but as you can see, right, this is a very difficult puzzle. This is not something that will solve in half a year. I mean, yeah, I mean we've been talking about it for half an hour, and that's just the four of us. Now our entire team is like 40 people, with all, and they all have their own opinion on this. So you can imagine.
yeah, and some opinions are wrong, some opinions are good. No, just kidding. Most of them are bad. Yeah, no, just kidding. At least mine is correct.
Exactly, and only mine.
your own opinion is always the best, right? Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So this is a big puzzle that we are working on. But yeah, people need to be patient. I know it sounds really easy, right? But yeah, this takes time. And like also in chat it says, we've talked about this for the last few years. That's correct, right? Because this is a very long-term problem that you need to solve, and it's not something that you're like, yeah, next year we're gonna like completely redo the entire design line, because the amount of work that's needed for that is monstrous.
Monstrous.
It's big.
Yeah,
I
so
think that's
we are
it's good
working on.
that everyone should appreciate how much work goes into making modules and how much work goes into like this designer role discussion on its own. Even like it's so much work goes into it, and a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I always try to see it loose from each other. Like I might not like a module, but I appreciate the people that worked on it and put time and effort into it.
Oh, to cut to chat. So they're asking like, yeah, aren't there going to be any changes? Then we are making changes, definitely. We are working on a new way of doing the projects, for example. So we can like emphasize the designer a little bit more. That they're not just like, yeah, just do documentation, but to give them more bigger role in the projects. And that should happen next school year already.
Yeah, already. Yeah.
So
also-
we're doing that.
Also, one thing we changed that maybe it's worth mentioning is not exactly on that discussion, but for instance, we already changed for next year that the roles are defined already before the first quarter. So the students that join in, they already have their roles from the beginning.
Yeah.
And the programming course has been split into a programming just for the engineers and a programming for the art and designers.
Yeah, and that will also help as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that should also help out the different expectations for the programming, like how do we prepare the students from that on.
To actually come back to the chat again, yeah, so those changes will also be for year 2 as well. Yeah,
So the changing the project should affect all projects in the first year and second year.
Yeah. Speaking of next year, that was a nice link.
Yeah, that was
That was so good. Since we're like out of time, well, not out of time, but so especially in the first years, there were a lot of like uncertainty about next school year, so we can actually say something about that. Next school year we are going hybrid. That means we're gonna offer both online and offline classes. So we are offering classes at school if you can come.
Labs. I think the
Labs,
best way of saying
I
that
think
is
labs are mostly.
Yeah.
Well, I
Labs
think
are-
lectures are mostly going to be
Online.
still online. That's the idea. It's also because of the restrictions. We don't know actually what restrictions will be in place. But then this allows us to actually have a lot of students listening to one lecture at the same time. Whether if we still have restrictions in rooms, you would have to do the lecture multiple times.
20 times.
Yeah,
probably.
and that's just not feasible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please don't. So we're doing that.
Yeah.
So the lectures will be online. Because I don't know about you, but I actually kind of like doing the lectures online.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
it's super efficient actually. That's actually really
Yeah.
good. And then the
Yeah.
labs will be offline again if you can come to Saxon by all means. And it will be for the first semester so that means till February we're going to do a hybrid. And then maybe hopefully assume that we're going to go back full time to offline.
Online.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
That
Coronavirus.
would be so brutal. Like, yeah, no, we're canceling everything.
No, yeah. The main thing is that we don't know. We cannot really force or expect everyone to be here in the first semester. And at the same time, the end of the first quarter is about near Christmas.
Yeah.
So what if you had to come here just to watch 1 week of lectures and then go out for Christmas and then go back? It would be completely messed
Yeah.
and a little bit unfair.
Yeah.
So then this gives you like 1 semester that you can plan better when you can come to the Netherlands to attend it. And the labs we're gonna do kind of mixture. We're gonna try to have lab classes completely offline, lab classes completely online. So we can split that way. So if you're here, you can come and have the labs there. And if you can't, you can still follow the activities online.
To come to chat, like, will the lectures stay like this after Corona? I'm a big fan, personally, of like just doing it forever online, because I think that works really, really, really well.
I think it depends on it depends on the lecture, I believe. I think some lectures are okay being given online, but I think some lectures probably benefit from actual being on site.
Yeah.
So it depends. I would say that it would really depend on each module itself, probably.
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope that the lectures are going to be online. Obviously, like there are exceptions with practical things, but
I do think.
Really like it.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I do think most of the teachers actually just prefer to go offline. Like I think maybe Alejandro, me, Mark.
I like online as well.
Yeah. No. I mean, exactly. I think we are a few exceptions that really like doing it online, but most of them, especially if you take a look at our internal communication, they are just like, I really miss seeing the kids and going there and seeing them crying and things like that. Like, it's something that a lot of
I don't miss them. No,
there are a few points. There are a few points that really make sense. For instance, when I'm teaching C++, for instance, I miss having like the overview of no one understanding it, so I can maybe change a little bit of how I'm phrasing things. But online is a little bit hard, so I have to be doing those surveys to figure out how many people answer that and things like that to kind of grasp if someone is getting it at all.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, no one's going to understand anyway. So then, for me, particularly for C++, it doesn't make a big difference. Yeah. I can use my own bathroom.
Yeah. The thing that I notice mostly is that it just goes a little bit slower doing things online. I mean, things that are super easily fixed, like just by walking over to someone, clicking a button, and it's fixed, and then you can continue. Right now, it's like, have your mouse a little bit to the left, a little bit to the left, a little bit higher. No, too far. A little bit down. It takes so much time. Yeah, it takes so much time. You're like, I could do this in like just one click and it's solved.
Yeah, left. No, the other left.
Exactly.
You just, I'll take over your screen. It's fine.
Yeah. It just takes a lot of time. But I think overall, I think lectures especially I think they can actually benefit from being online. Of course, with some exceptions, but overall, that I think I don't mind it that much being at home. I mean, it's not good for my like health, well, certain degree, and like my social skills, which I mean they were lacking, but now they're like down the drain completely. Like, how do I talk to people? I don't know. I just talk to like my screen nonstop. So
this is one of the social things I've done in a year. So
it's weird.
I was never really social on that aspect, so for me it doesn't make a huge difference.
Like being social? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What does that mean? I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's fun.
Yeah, but I think the recording aspect I think is great also. For instance, for my graduation circle, better said. So as soon as I guide for graduation, I recorded a lecture with them about, okay, how the hell do you do this? How do you actually write a problem statement? How you do the main question and things like that. And then once in a while, I get students that I'm study coach or students that just want some feedback on their graduation, and I can fall back and just say, hey, you can also just watch this because it's like 1.5 hours of me talking how to do that and how to actually find references online. Yeah. Even Alejandro watched it, but he said that he hated part of it. So you have some remarks.
I think we agree with most of what you discussed, but some parts we disagree. So those I explained differently to my graduation circle.
Yeah, and when you're watching it, Alejandro's version, when it gets that, then you have like a cut, and then it shows him like saying, "Wait, I don't agree with that. Do it differently, otherwise I will fail you."
Yeah.
But I think that's great. Just being able to send that and say, "Okay, watch this. I don't really need to repeat all of that. I can summarize in 5 minutes, but there you have the full thing."
Yeah, I think that helps a lot, and also like people who are sick, they can't come to class. Like, yeah, just watch my lab, watch my lectures, done. So they don't fall behind necessarily. I mean, if you're like sick for like 2 weeks, right, then you're pretty much screwed. Like old school, like pre-corona, and then you can't come to school for 2 weeks. Like, how will you catch up?
Actually, like a fun thing, like a funny thing, because pre-corona, there was also some people, some teachers, it was optional that they record their lectures that they did in the actual recording.
Yeah, the forum, yeah.
Place.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called. It's been so long, but no, but like even back then, I was like, why don't we do this like a normal standard thing? Like, why don't we just record these lectures? And if people are sick, if people can't make it, or are just not even in the country for whatever reason, then they can still follow it. Then you would have a combination of what you said, offline and online, for the people that want.
But I don't know, like I remember one of our colleagues doing that, and I remember watching it to see how it goes, and it feels a little bit odd. It feels like you're in there in the classroom just listening to it but looking at the wall, because there are some interactions and some things that the teacher does that you cannot really see it. Even if you try to put the camera and everything perfectly, it's still a little bit odd. We would need like a good setup to record it and things like that.
I also think the main issue is that only very few classrooms actually have a recording, the equipment. Most of the rooms don't have it. So then you would have some lectures that are recorded, some lectures that are not recorded. So I don't know. It's
basically that was a problem. Then that's something we can solve.
Yeah, it could be solved.
Mr. Saxon, please give us equipment.
Give money.
Please give us equipment.
Give money.
Please give us projectors at work all the time as well.
Would be nice. Yeah, I think only the fora have recording possibilities. So like F, etc. And the rest of them is like, I mean, we have to be glad if it actually works, if everything works properly, instead of like just constantly flickering the beamer off and on, and then hope to God that someone doesn't get like a seizure from the beamer, because it's like, so it's difficult. It's difficult.
But, like you said, if it's just a setup and equipment thing, like that is something you could manage. I mean, Saxon is a professional organization. We have multiple creative and technological studies. There's probably someone that knows how to set up a camera for a lecture, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't think we have that many cameras.
Mr. Saxon, again, please, if you're listening to this, give us cameras.
I think because we have two guys sitting in the XR lab on the Arden's plane, and they handle those kind of things, right, with the cameras. So you can go to them and can I borrow a camera? They're like, we have 5. Like, okay, cool. But then what if like entire section needs to get those cameras?
We fight
to the death.
Thankfully, due to Corona, the healthy status and the capacity of fighting for most of the teachers will not be that great, so we can already prepare for that.
Exactly. Fight Mortal Kombat. Behind it. That would be awesome.
This is a tip for the students who want to make a game about that. I think that would be great. I hope I'm the best player.
or just give like coffee like people, then I'll just win. Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
I do agree that like labs and practical classes should definitely be like offline, like that. That's just a good thing. Like I've read in chat a couple times, like people saying like what I in labs, like a lot of people show their work, but it always feels like the people that are the most active and like the sort of, I don't want to say top of the class, that sounds a bit weird, but like the people that usually have the best work show their work, and then I feel discouraging for people that are not necessarily on that level yet, or not necessarily that far
competition
yet.
That's actually a very good point.
A valid concern.
It is.
I think it goes both ways. I don't know, like I feel that sometimes doing online we can also do, or how I do with reprogramming courses is usually if students have a specific problem in the program, I just mute myself from Blackboard Collab and go to Teams to do a one-on-one with them. So then if you had a silly question, the other ones won't see it. will just be
Yeah,
me
I
and
think
you.
there are ways to work around it. Like in
Yeah.
BB Collab, you can also create like a room just for one-on-ones as well, for instance.
Yeah. No, yeah, indeed. But for instance, at the same time, I remember online, I think it was in a minor or something like that. I remember someone saying that a student didn't want to show their things because the other students had something that were already better. So they felt like, what should I present after this? Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
So,
It's
yeah,
true.
it goes. But on that, I want to say, like, for every artist out there, hear me, show your thing. It doesn't matter, like, if you don't think it's good and so on, so on, so on. The worst thing you can do for your career is
It's not
not
show.
get feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you, be open for feedback, show your stuff, and hear the feedback, apply it. Because if you just hide it, you're never gonna grow.
Yep.
And you're always gonna be a very harsh critic to yourself, but hardly a good feedback to yourself. So
Yeah.
do that. Don't feel like that.
Yeah. I mean,
It
you
applies to engineers and designers, to be
Yeah.
honest.
you are your worst critic by far.
But on what Rob said, I don't see the engineers, at least my impression is that I don't see engineers really ashamed of their code, because as very often they don't really know they should be ashamed of it. I think that's a good thing, because then because I think it's a good thing, because if they show, then I can say, shouldn't really do those things. But that's a teaching moment, so that's great.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
like, for example, in projects, like we're doing a project show off right now, and you just notice like a lot of the artists they show their work a lot, but then for the engineers it's a lot more difficult to show what they did, because they think like it's only code. But if you just make like a screenshot or like a little video what how it works, that will be so helpful, and it would also like be able to visualize what you're doing.
Yeah, but I mean, this is my opinion, right? Because I also get the impression that the engineers are like super like always like nitpicky about certain like how you name stuff, underscore versus no underscore, camel backing versus the
Camel
other-
case?
Yeah,
camel
don't
case
use
versus the
underscore.
other one. It's like
Yeah, don't use underscore.
yeah, see, okay, I mean, I use underscore for like for like things that are private. So it's like no, my thing, like my style is better than your style is better, and then it's like, but do you get feedback then, or do you just get your own opinion, or do you give your own opinion? So it's like
No, you should ask for feedback. Like, for instance, if you're taking a look at the how Unity suggests you to do stuff, so Unity says you should not use underscore for private. Like, if you're using Rider, like as an IDE for Unity, Rider will tell you to do so, and I do that with Rider, so it stops complaining, and I'm like that, whatever, dude, whatever, just let me do the thing. But Unity tells you not to do that.
yeah, but I've been taught to actually do that. So it's like
Yeah, but you were taught wrong.
I was
Easy.
That's the point.
I was taught by a teacher in our study, so I'm not gonna give you any names, but
Yeah. So if that teacher is listening, so according to Unity, they ask you to not to do that.
okay, I believe you. I believe you.
I got inside intel that tells that. Says that. Rob, sorry.
Yeah, there are always differences with like what you got taught and what actually like, because everyone does it and it's in a different way. Because I'm gonna say something very sacrilegious right now, is the fact that I have worked with a couple of professional artists in the industry, and they all said like if you have a static mesh that's not moving, it's fine to have an occasional angon. You know, I can see Mark's
Great.
Sorry, I'm just gonna ignore what you said. Okay.
You were so adamant about not having angles, and I get it, I understand it, but like, yeah, those are just very small differences.
It is. I mean, I think there is like no one way of doing anything in any industry ever, right? There will always be like these fine finesses in how you name your things. Do you use camel case or do you use cow case for like here? It's like,
Yeah.
it just depends.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. It also depends on what you're doing, what you're aiming for. But life is not exact, right? So you have to have a little bit of leeway
Deep
there.
shit.
Next subject.
Yeah.
Life is not
But I mean,
exact.
but there are things that we also should be careful. Like, one thing when we're talking about naming, and I saw some people commenting about naming. For instance, one thing that I'm really critical about coding is that coding is a language. Like, you're communicating with it. So when someone is reading your code, they're reading how you thought that thing and how that thing should work. So you should make it clear and how you're reading it. And when you do some of those things, like using underscore and things like that, you're conveying a message. So when you do underscore to mean this is a private, you want someone to quickly see that's a private variable, or that's a member variable, or this is just a local variable. So you want them to quickly grasp those things. And this will also change from team to team, the people you're working on, and so on. So,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, so yeah, I agree. One last thing about this entire topic. This morning we heard some new figures for CMGT, and we are growing as a study really rapidly. Actually, we're like, oh cool, oh shit, you know. So last year we had 180 first years, something like that, and then we're now looking at around 230, 240.
Wow. Okay.
First years.
We were kind of silently told to start denying students on the intakes, just saying no, sorry.
220.
No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, 220, 230, 240.
Yeah.
So it's
220.
Yeah,
It's going
220.
up,
Like,
with the second as well.
oh, actually, it's actually interesting to actually point this out. This is also the first time we're gonna have more people from abroad than Dutch students. So we're gonna have more international than Dutch students. That's also a really.
You celebrate.
I think that's really cool. I don't know what the balance is right now. I've no clue. I have to find out. But we're like, awesome. Fuck, you know, where do we gonna find teachers for that?
Now we need people.
We need to hire more people.
Yeah. So we are probably gonna. I think I just actually saw one of the openings open today for designer. So if you know someone, you know.
Yeah.
that's
Is
no
a
problem.
designer an artist or just
Designer.
designer?
Designer,
It was
just
a little bit weird.
Yeah.
The catch is yeah, exactly. That's the catch. Like when we figure out like the resumes and feel like, okay, we could interview some of those people, the first thing we're going to ask is, what is a designer? And if they can solve that for us, then okay, that's your spot.
Like,
Then you're hired.
Denied.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's actually good news. We were like really surprised by that because we expected a little bit more impact from Corona, but we're like, okay, cool, awesome. So we are growing rapidly. So it's going to be really fun, actually. So next year is going to be huge.
A lot of board games.
And then we'll like force the second years and the third years to test all of them. Literally every single board game you have to test all of them, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and give like super detailed feedback as well. You know, that's just one of the things.
I thought you were gonna say we would have to be the teachers at that point. Like we just year 2, year 3, we just have to like substitute for Mark when he's not.
Good luck, guys.
we have to make a clone or something.
Just do it. Handguns are fine. Come on, let's go.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe someone in chat has a question before we like wrap it up because it's all.
Yeah.
Maybe someone here has a question in chat. Let us know.
Because there's been a lot of questions just going kind of through as we were talking. So well.
Maybe someone has like tell me how to make soup, then Evans can tell us how to make soup.
When is the next podcast? Good question.
You open a cast.
I don't know. It depends on how people actually like this or not, right?
Yeah.
This probably depends everything on it. If people actually like this, if they're like, no, this is awful, then we'll never do this again. If like, let's do this again, then we're gonna do it again.
If they do, we can send an evaluation and get them to answer like
Survey. 60 questions. 60 questions.
Please be critical. Please be critical. Please answer.
And they would say, I didn't like someone talking there. So very specific things that we can use.
Yeah. Oh, actually, we have a
I
question.
think there are some questions. Yeah, they're going through.
So how easy is it to become a teacher after Saxion after graduating?
How easy? What do you
It's
mean?
not easy. It depends what you define as difficult, probably. But Saxion really wants people who have their master's degree. It's not like mandatory, but you have to be willing to get one at some point. So that's one. And we do really prefer industry experience. It doesn't matter which one, but of course the one that you're applying for. So we also want that as well. So like, I'm also a drawing, give me a job. You know, that's not how it works. So I wouldn't say it's super easy. I wouldn't say it's easy because Evans and Alejandra were like one of the last people to join us. So how did that work out actually? I'm kind of curious.
No. I think technically recently we hired Lindy and Malik, but they are part-times. They're part-time teachers. And I think the last ones to be hired as full-time teachers were me and Iwe.
Oh, Iwe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for us, we were pretty much like awesome portfolios and great attitude, so not that complex.
10-10.
Just
10-10.
awesome attitude. It's fine. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, but well, the process itself was, I think the process itself was very fair, and the things that were asked, and I think both me and Niue were lucky to kind of be very in line with what were expected from us, because when we joined, also 2 full-time teachers were leaving. I think Rudy was retiring,
Yeah,
right, and
Silva, yeah.
Elko was moving to another course.
Yeah.
So it was kind of everything the stars aligned perfectly. If we
Yeah.
do believe in those things, I don't, but well.
It does help. Yeah, it does help.
I have a question to you guys actually about that. Like
Yeah.
what Buck said in the chat was that,
Yeah.
for example, you would have someone applying for a teacher job that is an external person you've never met them, has great portfolio and specifications.
Mhm.
Or you would have a student that doesn't have any like real professional experience or a master's degree, but you know through the study like what that person is.
Oh, that's actually really
capable.
interesting. Yeah, because
Yeah,
what is that?
Let me call Miriam to ask. Oh, by the way, just one thing before going that. No, the last full-time teacher was Yuri.
yeah, well, Yuri, yeah,
Oh yeah,
Constance,
Yuri. Yeah, also,
it's
yeah.
Yuri.
yeah, who has like never been in school officially yet. So
No, he has. Yeah,
Yeah, one day,
we've been
right?
together there recently.
yeah, it's kind of sad. But
Yeah.
to actually comment on what you said, Rob, because the last time I was actually there, I was actually present when we hired Lindy and Malik, so 2 art teachers. We don't really look at like you're from our studies, so therefore we give you like a head start. That's not really the case. It's more like, do you like who fits the team better, and if that means that if you have like awesome work versus like okay work, right? And if you feel that the person with okay work fits better and maybe has better like connection with the students, then we might go for that person. So, but if the person with like this awesome portfolio fits better, then of course we're gonna go for that person, right? So it's not like necessarily we like you, therefore we will give you the job. That's actually
Oh
really
no,
not the case.
obviously, but like you already have an idea of the person. Like you already.
Yeah, and that might help you or actually not help you at all.
The other way around. Yes.
Yeah, like oh really? I mean, we had some people apply. For the last time, we're like, nope. We're not gonna nope, because we know who they are, and they're like, nah, no, never doing that. No.
Yeah, because sometimes it's not about the professional. It's not professional. It's personal. Like in a personal level, that working with a certain person might not be really
But that's
optimal.
also, I think in the Netherlands, it's actually very important. Also, if you're just applying for a job elsewhere, I think culture is very important when you're looking for a job.
Yeah.
And I mean, for the company, but also for you as a potential employee, right? You want to fit in. You want to be able to, get along well with the people that are working there. Because my wife, for instance, told me that when they are applying for jobs here, many times you are invited for one day to just visit the company, just walk around, talk to people, see how things are before they actually hire you and before you actually say yes. So because they need to make sure that you fit into the culture, and it's the same at CMGT.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go back to some questions in chat because we had actually a lot of them. Some concrete measures tackling the first and second year curriculum for designers.
I don't
I
have
think the
anything for sure
programming
now.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
think
the
the
programming
programming
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
yeah,
But-
and the projects probably, right? And the
And the
projects.
project.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't we are working on that, so we cannot just say dosing for sure. But we are working on that already for the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One
so-
thing on that, I also think is a good thing that we're doing the second year with the master classes, that we can experiment a little bit, so we can see which things fit well and that could have a place in the curriculum. So, for instance, I heard a lot of comments about the game economic master class that I'm giving, of course, that it might have. We might think about making something about that, or even just make it like more master classes on that, so you can kind of follow it through the year.
Yeah.
So I think those are things that we can do that can have a good impact also.
Yeah. Will the year 1 quarter 4 project change? Don't
Again, it changed. That's the third different project we're doing about that.
Yeah, in the third year of CMGT, yeah. So every year is different.
Every year is
we're
different.
like finding the sweet spot, and now with Gold Corona, it just makes it a little more different. So I don't.
It's gonna change for sure.
Yeah,
It's
so
gonna change for sure.
Next year is gonna be changed. Yeah, guaranteed.
For sure, because this year we also had a change in the order of the modules. So, for instance, we had input output in the third quarter, and usually it's in the second quarter. So
Yeah.
that also made a change. Usually you would have input output, and the arcade project would have all the hardware stuff. And this year we had 3D modeling, so the arcade had only 3D modeling to it.
was weird.
So the project will change anyway.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah. Is it possible to watch this again later? Yes, we will. This is being saved, and then I'll just put it on somewhere. So yeah, but we will let you know where you can actually get that.
Yeah.
Are there
I
any?
think there was a question about topics, right?
Yeah. Are there any topics you really want to discuss in a future podcast, or a lot of them? Or we
Yeah,
pull-
oh man.
Holy shit! Like one of the things that I want to talk about is
What is the meaning of life?
Blender versus no.
Well, let's go.
No, there are a lot of topics. For example, Unreal 5. I think that would be interesting to talk about.
Yeah,
so-
I can
we're
complain so much about it. Let's do it. And I'll do that. You wearing my Unreal T-shirt.
So where that's going, like the whole thing that's happening right now with like getting games from PS4, PS5 to moving over to the PC, like Horizon Zero Dawn. I think Last of Us 2 is now announced as well. So it's like what's happening there. So I think it's very interesting. So I personally have a lot of topics that I can talk about for hours. So I don't know about.
I really want to talk about the graduation and like what I really want to talk about, and Alejandro will agree with me.
Will I?
What
Will
is
I?
a problem statement? What is
Oh
the main
yes.
question?
Oh yes. Please.
Like,
Please.
can we try to make it in a way that we can try to make it make sense? That's something I really want to talk about.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. I think we can have a lot of things to
Yeah.
talk about because there are a lot of topics.
Yeah, I'm guessing also in Discord, we can like ask for things that might be interesting for students also to listen.
Yeah,
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. What do you guys want to listen about?
yeah, and maybe when as well. I think that'll be interesting as well. When communism versus capitalism events go.
Oh yeah.
No. Then we should get Casper in here.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
no.
No.
Yeah, Casper completely disagrees with me.
Yeah.
Well, of course he's wrong, but
Yeah, of course he's wrong.
he
Yeah.
does.
Best.
So let me ask this question: do you feel that we should do one more this year or not? This school year. Let me put on that. This school year.
Oh, the podcast?
Yeah,
I thought we
podcast.
were doing that next week already, but if you're saying that,
I thought it was like Sunday, right? No. Definitely yes. Okay. More podcasts. What masters? No, we're not doing it weekly. That's too much work. What master classes would you
bi-weekly
give? Yeah,
I
well,
would see that as a good thing.
I mean,
I think weekly is too much.
It's too much.
Bi-weekly or monthly, I think that
maybe
probably
monthly.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What master class would you like to give? If you could make one, I make my own master classes now.
yeah, me too.
Oh, I have one.
Yeah,
Blender.
a Blender masterclass. Do you think a Blender as a masterclass would work? I'm not sure because I think we would need more time.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, Mark also has like multiple masterclasses that
Yeah.
succeed
Yeah.
after each other. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also interested maybe in giving a prototyping one.
Cool.
That would be great. Yeah.
yeah, prototyping tools.
Yeah,
Yeah.
prototyping tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was up. No, there are I have some ideas, but I didn't have time to implement this for this quarter. So this quarter I'm doing again fast prototyping with Unity, 2 classes for fast prototyping Unity, and 2 classes for video game economics.
Yeah. I'm doing shadergraph, so that's kind of fun to do in Unity, shadergraph, and Python scripting, which I think you should all learn, even except for maybe the engineers, but artists and designers learn Python. Come to my masterclass.
It says it's Python for Maya, right?
Yeah.
But technically, it could also be applicable to Blender.
Yes.
It's
I
Python.
did already sign up for the fee for the shader graph thing, so I'll be there. You
Yeah.
see me there.
Python is actually really good because it's like the foundation of a community foundation of pipelines in studios. So I'm just, that's why you should join my masterclass. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not. Please join. No. Because last year I gave it to like 2 people. That was like really sad. Like, hey, welcome. Wow, never mind. That was kind of sad. It's very artist friendly, actually. To write to chat.
I think Python should not be that complicated
It's not. It's super easy.
to learn. Yeah.
That's one thing that I just gonna throw this in here. But I was discussing with Mark, like if we were to redesign a lot of things, if we couldn't consider Python as one of the initial languages in the beginning of the course, because it could be really helpful throughout the artist line.
Yeah.
But it's just throwing this here to see how people react to that.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of like ideas. Like, hey, what if we just start doing Unity in the first quarter? You know, or like, what if we start doing Unreal? Like, how
No.
many people?
No.
See that triggered events there. Like, why not?
No, I mean, the thing with Unreal, and I will say this again because the students always don't believe in that. But the thing is, every time I have students saying, "Oh, I'm gonna do Unreal for my minor. I'm gonna do all this," and I said, "Okay." And then in about 4 months, you're gonna agree with me. And then in about 4 months, they agree with me, coming for me to ask for help to see if we can make it work. So that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah. It's true.
But
yeah.
if Epic wants to sponsor us, then I can complain. But really, I will be a little
You
bit
can
more.
complain less, yeah.
Yes.
Shameless plug.
I'll say,
but
Sponsors and even just like the best.
they give us hoodies, you know. Give us hoodies.
it's not the best. It's not the best. Well, they have really good commercials.
It's okay. You can say it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
So don't push it too hard, man. Don't push it too hard.
Let's see. Do we have any other questions?
Oh, I saw some here like Unreal versus Unity. I think we said it already. It's Unity, of course.
But I mean, it's an interesting discussion to like explain why we actually use Unity and stuff. Unreal.
Because it's
Different
better.
time zone. Yeah,
Because he even said so.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, and I'm part of the Kirkcom, so
Yeah,
so
that's
then
true.
I have the
Yeah.
power to say so.
But I mean, that might be a topic in the future. But from what I gather, that people want to have another masterclass. Christ, we're talking about masterclass. Another podcast this school year. So we'll see if we can arrange that.
Yeah.
I was also thinking about I mean we all know some people from the industries. For example, I know someone who is now a level designer at Amazon, for example. I don't know why he's working at Amazon. Or a woman who is an artist who's now the lead manager for an AI company. So and like I think it would be interesting if we like invite those people as well to give you a little bit more insight on how things work in their field. Like how did they handle with like how did they find a job or what do they do? So I think that will be interesting as well, and like probably next school year.
Yeah, what brushes do they use?
Exactly. Pixel density, yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, pixel. Yeah, that's a very important thing.
So I think that would be, I think that could be interesting, but yeah, if you guys want, then yeah, we can definitely do another one this school year. Definitely, I think it's awesome.
I also had a question. Do you have any pets, people?
Nope.
I have roommates.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have a baby. Not a pet, but
I thought about making that joke.
Actually,
What was like, this is really not appropriate. Let's wait for him to do that.
yeah, I will do it
Made
on
in
my
America.
own. Yeah, I will do it on my own. Yes.
so here's the thing, right? My garden is like right next to a graveyard, literally. It's like behind it. So when I look outside, I see like gravestones.
Oh, that's cool.
It's awesome. It's because it's quiet there, so it's like it's dead quiet.
Yeah.
Sorry, but that means that we have like a lot of like squirrels here and like pigeons and all that animals. But our neighbors got chickens the other day. I'm like, oh cool, why do you have chickens? But their fence door, right, has like a huge gap at the bottom. So I was looking outside the other day and like, why is there a chicken in front of my door? And like, wait, there are now 4 chickens in front. Why are there chickens in front of my door? And it was like this the moment we like, wait, what? What? It was super weird. So I have pets then, I suppose. To get back to that one, I think if that counts as pets, then I have 4 chickens and 16 squirrels.
You can invite Yue to your house, and then that problem will be solved. And you will have nice food.
That's true. Wow, got escalated quickly.
Yeah, getting back into it, I don't have any pets. I plan to have some in the future, but not now.
No, same.
Dogs. I'm getting
I saw
dogs.
someone said about doing that I could do advanced game mechanics and dynamics. Yeah, to be fair, I was when I said because usually who takes care of the master classes is Johannes, And when I said hello, I wanted to do like video game economics. He also asked anyway if I could give any technical master classes because I don't think we have many of them. So I'm not sure. I have to see that and also expect to some of my colleagues to take over doing a technical master class, so I can do a more game design oriented one.
Do it.
Yeah, I had a good question. The video game economics is like real money or not in-game advanced economic system, right? Video game economics is about video game economics. It's not about money, but about resources and relations within game design.
Yeah, it's a game economy, but
yeah, it's a game economy. So it's not about money. Money within the game is part of the game economy, but it's not only that.
Yeah,
it's not how to get rich.
Yeah, I wish I knew that.
Yeah.
I do hot top stream on Twitch if you're a woman. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. But otherwise, you know.
I don't know.
I mean, you could be the first one to do that. Give it a try.
There are all these people I know streamers that did a hot top stream. Poor guys.
So we can say like if you get like a 1,000 likes, we will do a podcast in a hot tub. But I don't think that's very appropriate, so let's not ask that before.
No.
So let's not do that. But looking at the time, I think it's a good time to call it a day because it's already 9:30.
So let's just see some of the final questions here. Like, can I do a GXP engine for my miner? Do you mean miner skilled? If so, you can use GXP engine for your miner skill for sure. Go for it. The only thing is,
if you want to.
Yeah, the only thing you have to abide by the things for the miner skill. Why Unreal Engine is so hyper then? Because they have good ads, so they had good commercials.
And good out of the box graphics. Well, like you just like load it up and it looks pretty. Where Unity takes a little more time.
Yeah, but at the same time, you need good artists to come up with good assets, so you make things look nice. So a lot of people just think that by using Unreal, everything will look nice. But if you don't get good assets, you're not going to do that.
Make awesome button. Open up Unreal. You know, make awesome.
Yeah. Video game economics is about video game economics. Yes. Because the question was is it about money? And I said no. It's about literally video game economics.
Yeah. I think that was it.
Yep.
Yeah. So thank you all for being here. I think that was actually really fun to do. I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoyed this. And I think this can actually be really helpful as well for in the future to build up a community and give a little bit more like insight on how things are run behind the scenes. And also our own personal opinion. Again, these are all own personal opinions, not sectional communication.
Mrs. Section, if you're listening to this, remember the cameras.
The cameras.
The cameras.
Yeah,
and the projectors.
The projectors.
Yeah, projectors also. But maybe cameras first.
Then you want to give a lecture, you record it, but then you cannot get it to show on the on the wall.
I thought they record the audio or something.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, so thank you all. Also the people in chat, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah.
And then,
thank you very much.
We will let you know.
Thank you very much, Rob and Alejandro, for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you for having us.
I enjoyed it very much. And,
thank you, me.
In the future, I'll be allowed to be back.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, thank you very much. And then I'll stop the stream, but at least for now, and then we'll let you know about the next one in the near future. So.
And also, like, if we're gonna, because Mark was saying that he's gonna put this everywhere, like Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music, everywhere. So as soon as those things start to be live, then we're gonna just start spamming everyone.
Yeah.
Together with the survey about it. Try to be as vague as possible.
Yeah. But
enter the stream, you have to fill in the survey first.
Yeah. But if you have tips or things we should talk about, let us know, and then we can always listen to it.
You should have like your own personalized music, man, to enter. Like.
Anyway, guys, thank you very much for being here, and then
thank you.
Take care, and that's Vidania, and
nice evening.
Ciao.